Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. One of the frustrations of this vlog that I do is that I have to do it part-time. I have a day job. That means that I'm always recording these vlogs when I have a chance during the day, and always at least a day before you see them. And on certain days like today, well, not certain days, on Fridays, if I record it on a Friday, you're not going to see the vlog until Monday. So I can't jump on an item that is hot off the press, something that just happens. You'll already know about it by the time I'm talking about it, I assume, if it's something that happened on a Friday and you're seeing this on a Monday. But maybe it's something that you missed, but at least you get my comments. I like to give my comments, and that's why you should consider this really a commentary vlog, not really a news vlog, unless you like getting your news a little late. So today I'm going to talk about something that you probably already know. Two things, actually. One of them might not have. Well, that's a problem with our media today, the liberal media. So I kind of take back part of what I just said, because you may not know about something that happened days ago because the media perhaps didn't report it. This should be top news on all the major stations, on CBS, NBC, ABC, and all the cable stations. We already talked about, you already know for sure, that Trump, I hope you know, was nominated for a Nobel Prize. I talked about this in an earlier vlog earlier this week. He was nominated for a Nobel Prize, Nobel Peace Prize, for brokering the rapprochement, the opening of full diplomatic relations between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Well, guess what? And this is going to make, well, full disclosure, if you don't already know, I'm a conservative, so this is good news for me. Maybe, well, it should be good news for everybody, but I suspect not to a lot of our liberal friends, and certainly not to another group I'm going to mention in a few seconds. Here's the headline: Trump nominated for second Nobel Peace Prize following Serbia-Kosovo deal. As you know, or you should know, Trump brokered an agreement between Serbia and Kosovo. Serbia still will not recognize Kosovo as an independent country, but they decided to have, well, this is the breakthrough. This is the thinking out of the box that Trump is becoming increasingly well known for, because previous administrations and State Department officials and secretaries of state tried to resolve this political issue, to work out a recognition of Kosovo by Serbia. But Trump said, let's see what we can do that's short of that, but that will get the process going. But more important, that will be good for both sides without Serbia having to recognize Kosovo. And that's what that agreement was that was signed earlier this week in the Oval Office between Serbia and Kosovo, to open economic relations. So they're going to have trade and economic relations, which is good for them, but it's also good for us, the United States, believe it or not, for international companies, because before, again, believe it or not, before this agreement, if you were an American businessman wanting to do business in Kosovo and Serbia, if you rented a car in Kosovo, you could not drive into Serbia, even though it's right next door. But now you can rent a car in one country and drive to the other. Well, I can't say country, because if we're talking about going from Serbia to Kosovo, because again, Serbia refuses to recognize the independence of Kosovo. But you understand, you could drive from one entity to the other. So he's been nominated for a second Nobel Prize for that. let me just read you a little bit of the article. President Trump has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for a second time this week, this time for brokering a historic peace deal between Serbia and breakaway Republic Kosovo. In a Friday morning tweet, Magnus Jacobson, a member of the Swedish parliament, announced he was nominating the Trump administration and the two European nations for their, quote, joint work for peace and economic development through the cooperation agreement signed in the White House, unquote. On Wednesday, the president was nominated for the prestigious award by a member of the Norwegian parliament for helping broker a peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. So that the sound that you hear may be our liberal friends or some liberal heads exploding because Trump brokered two historic peace deals and he's been nominated for two Nobel Prizes. That's a record right there. I don't know how many presidents have, I don't think any. I think he's the very first United States president to be nominated for two Nobel Peace Prizes. And there could be more because this item came in today, a little bit earlier today. I talked about Israel and the United Arab Emirates a moment ago, their peace deal, their opening of full diplomatic relations. Well, look at this headline. Israel, Bahrain to normalize diplomatic relations, Trump announces. President Trump on Friday announced the normalization of diplomatic relations between Bahrain and Israel, the second such breakthrough in recent weeks as the administration works to broker cooperation among Middle Eastern nations. Quote, this is a historic breakthrough to further peace in the Middle East, opening direct dialogue and ties between these two dynamic societies and advanced economies will continue the positive transformation of the Middle East and increase stability, security, and prosperity in the region, unquote, Trump said in a joint statement with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and King Hamad bin Isa Salman Al Khalifa of Bahrain. The news comes roughly a month after Trump announced the normalization of ties between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Trump has pointed to both announcements as major foreign policy achievements, which he is likely to tout in the closing stretch of the 2020 presidential campaign. Bahrain officials are expected to join representatives from Israel and the UAE, United Arab Emirates, at the White House next week for a formal signing ceremony. So when this signing ceremony occurs in the White House between Israel and the UAE, somebody from Bahrain will be there too, which leads me to my final observation or final prediction, which is that I talked about our liberal friends' heads exploding. Well, what if he gets nominated, Trump, for a third Nobel Prize? 3 Nobel Prizes. The president, who was supposed to, according to our liberal friends, get us into another war, 2 Nobel Peace Prizes, 2 historic peace deals, a third historic peace deal, and maybe a third historic Nobel Peace Prize, which gets me to the last heads that are probably exploding right now so loudly that you could almost hear them all the way over here in the United States. I talk, of course, of the Palestinians. The Palestinians are being thrown under the bus. The Arab countries, or at least a couple of countries, and I think there will be more. I think that Saudi Arabia is eager to make peace with Israel. They already gave the Israelis permission now to fly their domestic flights between Israel and the UAE, and I assume now Bahrain, to fly through Saudi airspace. They already had a tacit agreement that Israel could fly over Saudi Arabia to attack Iran if it ever became necessary, which gets me to another important point that I actually just remember now, which is how important the UAE-Israel peace agreement is vis-a-vis Iran, vis-a-vis containing Iran, vis-a-vis preventing Iran from getting an atomic weapon. Because the problem that the Israelis were having, it wasn't insurmountable, but a problem that they had, past tense, in attacking, if they wanted to attack Iran to destroy their nuclear program, is the distance between Israel and Iran. A long time ago, initially, they would have had to fly around Saudi Arabia to get from Israel to Iran. They subsequently got tacit permission from the Saudis to fly over Saudi Arabia to get to Iran. I would have imagined that if the Israelis did that, the Saudis would scramble a few jets for show with prior arrangement with the Israelis, but the Israelis would be able to fly through Saudi Arabia to get to Iran. But now they could have, conceivably, because I'm expecting military cooperation between the UAE and Israel, the Israelis could use Abu Dhabi's air bases to attack, or from which to attack Iran. Abu Dhabi is much closer. They are half the distance, I think about 500 miles from Iran, the distance from Abu Dhabi to Iran. They can get there a lot quicker, number one. Number two, the logistics just work out a lot better for Israel. It makes an attack much more feasible, or, well, it was always feasible. It makes it a lot easier, which is something that has to be causing a few Iranian heads to explode. The Iranian leadership, the Iranian military, certainly it has to keep them up at night. And now we have Bahrain joining the club. And imagine if Saudi Arabia joins the club. This is something to look for in the future, because Saudi Arabia, obviously, they're right next door to Iran. So Iran could have Israeli troops and jets right on their doorstep. And that is especially important because you're no longer just talking about planes and bombing from the air. Imagine actual Israeli foot soldiers, infantry, right on the Iranian border. Can you just visualize or imagine how that completely changes the picture? And Trump did it. He deserves a lot of praise. And I hope if you like this video, I hope you like it enough that you think that I deserve a thumbs up if you like this video, and sharing of the video with anybody you think would like the video too. Got any questions, you can put them in the comments section where the comments would go, right? Comments and questions and suggestions for future topics. You could subscribe. I love getting more subscribers. And most of all, well, not most of all, thanks for spending time with me again. I really appreciate it. And I would love to see all of you again. I hope to see all of you again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.